I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be Life is Relationships. People come and they go. Well, I've got an email here from a viewer, and I've got a couple quotes that I want to talk about. I want to talk about attachments. Getting attached to people, places, things, events, girlfriends, relationships, business partners, careers. When you look at life, and now that I'm 43, obviously I've been on this planet a few decades, I'm able to look back with some perspective. And we got to realize about, like when you look at our society as a whole, they make a big deal out of finding that one perfect person to spend the rest of your life with. In reality, when you look at things, and you look at like the history of the church and marriage as an institution, back when that was instituted, people lived, their life expectancy was only like 30, 35 years, and so basically people got married, they had kids, they raised their kids, and usually by the time their kids were grown, they were usually dead because they didn't live very long. And when you look how far science is advancing, and scientists now, through DNA manipulation, stem cell research, they're basically saying they were about 20 years away from being able to extend human life indefinitely through genetic manipulation. I mean, you look at the fact that our average life expectancy is around 80 years right now. I mean, think about this. If you're watching this video and you're around my age, I mean, what do you think about living to be 120 or maybe 150 years or even 200 years into the future? I mean, all those things are possible. And when you look at what keeps our bodies alive, our cells need three things to thrive and survive. They need oxygen, the proper nutrients, and the ability to eliminate waste. There was a doctor who kept alive chicken cells, like tissue cells, in a petri dish for over 30 years. And obviously chickens don't normally live that long in nature. And what he did is he just continually changed the fluid and made sure that the cell's waste was eliminated when it was secreted, and the nutrients were placed in the fluid that the cells were suspended in. And the experiment ended when the scientist who was running the experiment died and passed away. And they, in essence, threw all of his stuff out when he passed away. But the thing is you look at that and you see how far they're advancing, and like with robotics and the fact now we're literally on the verge, and we're actually growing ears, noses, limbs, and in the next 15, 20 years you're going to be growing hearts, livers from your own tissue in a petri dish, growing it and then transplanting it. It'll be your own tissue, so you don't have to worry about drugs that suppress your immune system. You know, because when people get a transplant, they're usually going to only live about 20 years. I mean, think about it. Can you imagine? I mean, the reality is the statistics are that our divorce rate's over 50%. And because of what I do for a living, and I talk to people all over the world, couples, men, women, and all kinds of different cultures, ultra-conservative societies and cultures, and obviously very open societies like we have here in the West. And men respond to what they respond to in relationships, just like women respond to emotionally what they respond to in relationships. And when I look back at the number of couples that I've met that have been together 20, 30, 40, 50 years and are really happy and really still in love and really just enjoy each other's company, that really is the exception to the rule. I mean, lots of people, because I deal with this day in and day out, and you can look at the statistics yourself. I mean, you see a lot of couples that may be married and together into their 40s or 50s. The kids grow and they become adults, and they go on and they move out of the house, they leave the nest, and then the couple's sitting there looking at each other, and they don't even know the other person. And the only reason they really stayed together was for the children. And then they end up getting divorced. And so you see that that's pretty much the norm. And when you figure that, I mean, everything you love and everything you care about in this world eventually is going to dissolve, including you. That means your parents, your friends, your family, your business associates, the people that you work with, your next door neighbors. The only thing that's constant in life is change. And we're seeing people that are living, I mean, it's going to be pretty much the standard when I get up there in years, that it's going to be pretty common that people are living well past 100 years old. And at the end of the day, I look at my own life and how many friends that I've had over the years. I have a core group of friends that I can count on one hand that I've known for 25 years. And I don't hang out with these friends every single day, and I don't talk to them every day. But whenever we get together and we hang out, it's like we had seen each other 5 minutes ago or the day before, even though we may have not seen each other but maybe once or twice in the past year. As you grow and you evolve, life is always changing. And sometimes, we look at careers. In my parents' generation, my grandparents' generation, people would choose one career and they would stay in that career their whole life until they retired and died. When you look at how technology is changing industries, things are changing literally overnight. You look at the book industry. Look at what's happened to Barnes & Noble or Borders Books, or look at what's happened to retail stores as a whole. And we have mass disruption in whole industries that are literally, you'll see companies that have been around 40, 50, 60 years that literally disappear almost overnight. You look at companies like Best Buy versus Circuit City. Best Buy was doing great a couple of years ago, and now they're in real trouble. Circuit City is gone. They're no longer a company. And so as technology advances, we see robotics. Eventually, 40, 50 years from now, most people are basically going to be focused on living their lives and enjoying themselves, because with advances in robotics and materials, a lot of our manufacturing is going to be done by robots. And so a lot of people aren't really going to have to work a 40, 50, 60, 70-hour work week like they do now. And so what does that do to society? What does that do to the nature of relationships? I was reading an article by a guy who's a really famous futurist. I forget his name, but he's been married for 34 years to his wife, and he's the way he was talking is just kind of like, wow, do I really want to be with this same person for the next 50 years of my life until I pass away? Think about it. It's like, who's really truly happy in relationships? When I look back at my life, I've only encountered, like I said, a handful of couples that are really crazy about each other and have been together for a long time. And like I said, that's the exception to the rule. It's not the norm. Things over the past several years have changed. Or past several hundred years, I should say, have changed when it comes to marriage. And at the end of the day, you can't live your life according to other people's expectations. Stevie Wonder said that. You can imagine what he had to go through growing up. A blind black man growing up in the 50s and 60s who played music. Can you imagine the horrible things that people said to him as he was climbing up the ladder of success, so to speak? That's something to think about. So I've got an email here from a guy who's older than I am. And he says, you have over 1,000 videos, and it must be difficult to make so many since it's work just to listen to so many. I think if you watched my videos for like 24 hours a day, it would take you almost a month of watching my videos just 24 hours a day straight, because I've produced so many on so many subjects over the past couple of years. He says, I'm 30 years your senior, yet I still need information in your videos. The information can be adapted and used in any type of relationship, it seems. He says, in my opinion, you're doing a real service, and I really appreciate it. My question is, have relationships changed? How should they look now? We all talk about finding the right one, but do we want to live with anyone unless we have children to raise? That's a good question. Life really is what you make of it. And I say this all the time. I can teach you how to have a great, successful, healthy, drama-free, loving relationship, free of arguments and nagging, but I can't cause you to stay in love with one particular person your whole entire life. That's up to you. He says, living in different parts of the house seems better, or you get too much in each other's way. Well, that happens a lot. A lot of people, they stay together their whole life, and they really can't stand each other, or, my husband snores too loud, and they end up living in separate rooms. Go out in public and go to a restaurant, go to the mall. Just observe couples. See how many of them really look like they're having a great time together, and they really are having fun together, who have been together for a long time. You'll see a lot of couples that are older, they'll go to dinner and they'll sit down at the table. The husband will be reading a magazine. The wife will maybe reading the newspaper or vice versa. And they're not even talking to each other. The only time they talk is when the waiter comes by. Is that really a happy and fulfilling relationship? I think that sucks. That's not my standard. And if I was in that kind of relationship, I would have left a long time ago. Most people stay in relationships long past the time when they know it should have ended. He says, I do find that I like relationship that lasts a lifetime with the right attitude. Love can only grow stronger with time if you think that way. But at the end of the day, that's somebody else's belief system. That is society's beliefs that they've taught you. And that's a learned behavior. It's like we grow up and we come into this world and they say, hey, there's this little box and you got to find one perfect person and hold on to them for your whole life. And that's it. But realistically, the statistics just simply don't support that kind of a relationship. I mean, like I said, when I look back at my life, there's been people I used to hang out with 10 years ago I don't want to talk to anymore, and I don't have the desire to talk to them anymore because I've grown and I've evolved as a human being. And they tend to stay where that they were at. Life is all, you can never stop growing, you can never stop evolving. And I've found that when you hold on to things, whether it's a job or a career or a business relationship or a relationship with a person, when you internally no longer feel the same enthusiasm, it's best to move on and create something new. Because look at Mother Nature. Things are constantly growing, and when something stops growing in nature, what happens? It dies and it's eliminated. So he says, I mean, does a search ever end? In your view, what percentage of people? I mean, I think I've covered that clearly. He says, I just can't get a clear picture of where all this is going. Is it towards more creative relationships? Or does following your example mean you just end up searching forever? Well, like I said, people come and go in your life. And when you hold on to that person because you think you have to be like other people. I mean, I got married in my 20s because it's what everybody was doing. And I felt it's not what I felt I should do. It's what I thought I should do. I wasn't listening to my heart. My heart was screaming, get out of this relationship. But instead I married her because that's what everybody else was doing. That's what I was told and brainwashed that I needed to do, was to hold on to that one person for the rest of my life. And after a year, I realized I was fucking miserable. And what I've learned is that, I've had a lot of great relationships with a lot of great women. Some of them lasted a few months. Some of them lasted several years. Some of them lasted a decade. But people grow, people evolve, and when you get to the point where you realize that your goals or your values are no longer aligned, you got to let go of that person and move on, because what I've always found is that better always comes. My relationships get better and better with time, just like my friendships do. Just like my businesses. The business that I have today is more fulfilling and more fun than all the companies that I've had in the past that I've been involved with. I have more freedom now to do what I really want to do. I love being able to kind of come and go as I please, to make my own schedule. I don't have business partners that I got to answer to or convince when I want to change something or do something or invest in another area of my business. I just simply do it. I mean, it's an amazing to be, you should look at your life as it's a creation and process. It's like when I looked at what I was doing in my 20s, I worked my ass off a lot in my 20s. I was in my early 20s, I was going to school, I was working 2 different jobs, and I was busy. Every minute of my day was planned out for me. And deep down, I didn't always want to live that way. I wanted to get to the point where I am today, which basically I can come and go as I please. And when we want reality to be other than it is, we want things to stay the same, that's just simply not the way life is. When you look at life and relationships and achieving and being who you are, creating the life that you really want, it's always evolving. It's always growing. That's what you see in nature. Things are always growing. Trees are always growing. Some are dying. Same thing with the animals and everything that you see in the forest. And so when we try to hold on to things, life is always changing, and everything that you love and you care about is going to dissolve. And so the only thing you really can do with your life is to find a way to enjoy it, to find a way to get to a place like where I'm at, where I come and go as I please, and I do what I want, when I want, with who I want. Something to think about. So if you want to talk to me right away, the quickest way to get my help is to book a paid phone coaching session. You can do that by going to my website, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and just follow the instructions.